Welcome back to part two of our at-home series with technology sector CEOs. I'm delighted to be joined by Pam Maynard, Chief Executive of Avanade. Pam, a great deal has happened since the turn of this year, bringing a much-needed spotlight on social injustices and the continuing importance of diversity and inclusion. Can you talk about what Avanade is doing to ensure underrepresented groups have a greater opportunity to accelerate their careers?
Hi, Mike, and yeah, I'd be delighted to talk through some of the things that we're doing at Avanade. And Avanade has been on this journey for many years, and it's absolutely critical at times like this that we do have that focus on creating a diverse and, above all, inclusive environment for our people. And our priority really started with gender. That's where we started the journey. And it's interesting to see now, after 20 years, we've actually got to a place where our board, and we have 5 members of the Avanade board, 3 of whom are actually female, which is pretty unusual for a tech company, and something that I'm very proud to be part of, as I also sit on that board. As I say, it has been a journey, and there's still a long way for us to go in Avanade. And there are different things that we've been doing. The first thing as well, I would say, is creating that inclusivity and that culture of inclusivity has to start at the top, right? It has to start at the exec team, and starting with a set of tangible actions, KPIs, transparent and measurable accountability as well, across that executive committee. And then also, reporting out in a transparent way in terms of how you're actually making progress. And one of the things I need to do on a quarterly basis is actually report to the board, in terms of how we're progressing across our diversity and inclusion agenda. So the first thing is, making it intentional, right? By treating it in the same way that you would any other business priority would be the first thing that we've done. So the second thing that we've done is putting an intentional focus on our employee resource groups and our employee networks. The largest ones that we have would be our women's ERG, so it's focused on the gender agenda, our LGBTQ ERG, we call that PRISM, and then also our Inspire ERG, which is focused on our African American community, given our employee base in the US in particular. And then we have a number of other affinity groups and networks. And these groups are incredibly important for a number of reasons, right? They help you to better understand the experiences, the lived experiences of the people those groups represent. And that's important, so you can make sure you've got the right intentional actions. And as a leadership community, you're focused on doing the right things. They're also therefore incredibly important in terms of the reverse mentoring opportunity that they provide. Right, so that would be the second important piece. The next thing that we've done is we've really looked at our talent processes, Mike. So, and in particular, looking to ensure that we're removing and eradicating bias that might exist in those processes. Unconscious bias training, right, and ensuring that our leaders throughout the organization, our people are going on that training, and then learning the lessons from that. And also, I think there is an important connection between your unconscious bias training and your employee resource groups to ensure your unconscious bias training is actually reflective of their lived experiences. One of the things we've done as well is we've gone through succession planning and sort of the rating performance management processes of our senior people, is we've actually included a neutral challenger in the room who's challenged the dialogue that we've been having on individuals to make sure that bias isn't creeping in. And then the last thing that's important, and one of the things that we put emphasis on, is around the importance of role models, the visibility of role models, mentoring and sponsorship. And I know firsthand, and I really sense the huge responsibility that I have as a Black female CEO for me to be out there as a role model and helping people to see the opportunity that could exist for them, but also I know firsthand the importance that mentoring and sponsorship has had for me in my career. So those are just a few of the things that we've done from in Avanade.
Thank you, Pam. And I can say with certainty that you definitely are a role model for sure. So just following on from that question, what advice would you give perhaps other companies that are looking to create greater diversity and inclusion across their organisation, especially in their C-suite? Is there one nugget of advice that you could give them?
I would go back to the point of it's got to start at the top. It's got to be seen to be very deliberate, very intentional. A clear business priority in the same way that any other business priority might exist, and KPIs, action or associated with action plans, and above all, transparency in terms of the progress you're making and accountability. In terms of that progress. So that's what that'd be the one nugget of advice I would give.
And Pam, we've seen some data over the last sort of 3 or 4 months since the pandemic started that suggests that both technology and the virtual recruitment process has played a part in creating far more diversity in an executive search process. Do you think that embracing both new technologies and working patterns that we've had to embrace over the last sort of 4 or 5 months since COVID started will have an impact on the diversity and inclusion agenda long term?
Yeah, I do. I can absolutely see that opportunity ahead of us. If you think to the gender diversity, one of the challenges that we face is how do we create opportunity for women who may have stepped out from their careers to look after families and maybe getting to a point where they can come back even part-time, but are struggling, for example, with how they might balance that with a commute. One of the things that's happened through the pandemic is we've seen that we can be effective working from home and without having to be in person. So I think that in itself will start to open opportunity for us to connect with and attract more females who maybe are juggling still and will have to continue to juggle the home and the family life, but have more of their day accessible because they've not got the commute, and because they've got more of their day accessible, can actually now start to really think about returning to work. So I think that opportunity will exist. The other one would be, being able to, going back to the point around borderless and boundaryless, I think it will allow us to access talent again in other parts of the country that we may not have been able to access before, or other geographies that may not be, because of geographic boundaries. And so suddenly, people who have great skills but are living in more sort of remote areas, we can look to get those people on board. They can start to become part of a virtual workforce in a way that they would never have been able to become before. I think one of the challenges we need to consider with all of that, though, is about culture. And as you create an organization which is more virtual, how do you stay true to the brand values, if you like, the cultural values of that organization, but still embrace a remote and virtual workforce? I think that will be one of the lessons that we're all going to have to learn and adapt to. And one of the key points there is about, how do we carry that through our recruitment processes, which of course, Mike, is something that you would know a huge amount about. But yeah, so I agree with you totally.
Well, Pam, look, on behalf of all at Odgers Berndtson, thank you for taking the time and for your wonderful insight. My best to you and your family, and of course everyone at Avanade. And thanks again for giving us your time on this at-home series interview.
And thank you, Mike, for the opportunity. It was great to talk to you. Take care.